My name's Jack Morrison, and I've been a private investigator in Chicago for 12 years. Most days, I'm tracking down deadbeat dads or corporate embezzlers. But my bread and butter? The heartbroken spouses who sit across from my desk in my Lakeview office, clutching coffee cups with trembling hands, whispering, "I just need to know the truth." That's where my Pottery class scheme came in, a little white lie that saved marriages and shattered others. Take Lisa Henderson, for example. She walked in last Tuesday wearing a faded Northwestern sweatshirt, her wedding ring spinning nervously on her finger. "My husband Mark's been working late," she said, avoiding my eyes. "Every Tuesday night for 3 months. He says it's mandatory training at the bank." I'd heard it all before. I leaned forward, tapping my notepad. "Lisa, what if I told you there's a way to find out without him suspecting a thing? A pottery workshop downtown. Beginner friendly. You'd be learning a new skill while I handle the rest." Her eyes widened. "You'd spy on him while I'm making vases?" I nodded. "Exactly. It's foolproof." She bit her lip, then agreed. Little did she know, this case would unravel something far darker than a simple affair. The real story began at 7:03 p.m. that Tuesday, outside First National Bank's downtown branch. Mark Henderson never showed up for work. My surveillance van idled near the bank's service entrance. At 7:15 p.m., I checked Mark's employee badge photo again, sharp suit, confident smile. But when I called the bank's security desk posing as HR, the guard chuckled. "Mark Henderson? Quit 3 weeks ago. Cleared his desk Tuesday after his performance review." My gut twisted. This wasn't just an affair. Lisa had been lied to about his entire life. I tracked his phone ping to a rented studio in Logan Square, not some seedy motel, but a sunlit space plastered with architectural blueprints. Through the window, I saw him laughing with a woman who wasn't Lisa, Sarah Chen, his former colleague. They weren't kissing. They were arguing over mortgage rates. Turned out Mark hadn't just left his marriage. He'd left his job, drained their joint savings, and was building a new life with Sarah under Lisa's nose. Every Tuesday, training session, he'd been planning their future. I watched him hand Sarah a key to a condo in Oak Park. Lisa was still at pottery class, centering clay on a wheel, unaware her life was being dismantled. My usual script, I caught him cheating, felt inadequate. This was calculated betrayal. I texted Lisa, "Class running late. Stay there. We need to talk." Lisa's reply came instantly, "Did you find something?" Her pottery instructor later told me she dropped her half-formed vase when her phone buzzed, clay splattering her jeans. By the time I pulled up to the community center, she was pacing the parking lot, arms crossed against the October chill. "He's not at the bank, is he?" she asked before I could open my door. I showed her the photos, Mark and Sarah in the studio, the Oak Park condo key, screenshots of his resignation email. She didn't cry. Her voice went flat, clinical. "The mortgage payment bounced last week. He said it was a glitch. We sat in my van as streetlights flickered on. He's been ghosting our life," she whispered. "I cooked his favorite lasagna every Tuesday. Waited up with wine." Her knuckles turned white gripping the photos. "How long do you think he planned this?" Professionally, I should have handed her the evidence and walked away. But her stillness scared me. "Lisa, call your lawyer tonight. Freeze joint accounts." She nodded, then asked quietly, "Can you find out if he's still wearing our wedding ring?" That detail gutted me. I found Mark at a hardware store in Oak Park the next evening, buying paint samples. Sarah was with him. He wasn't wearing the ring. I took photos from across the aisle as he debated seaside gray versus coastal mist, laughing when Sarah teased him about his indecision. That casual intimacy, the way he touched her elbow when making a point, hurt more than any affair would have. When I showed Lisa the photos the next morning at a diner near her apartment, she stared at the empty space on his finger. He took it off before he quit his job, she realized. He planned this while I was planning our 10th anniversary trip to Hawaii. She pushed her pancakes away untouched. I feel stupid. All those Tuesday nights, I thought he was stressed about work. I even bought him noise-canceling headphones for his commute. Her coffee grew cold as she scrolled through their text history, his lies about late meetings, her cheerful, love you, replies. The worst part, she whispered, is that he's happy. Really happy. Lisa hired Eleanor Ruiz, a no-nonsense divorce attorney from Loop Legal. Within 48 hours, they froze the joint accounts. Mark's attempt at draining their savings stopped at $87,312, enough for Sarah's down payment, but not the full heist he'd planned. The courthouse steps on LaSalle Street became our battleground. Mark showed up in a new suit, smelling of Sarah's jasmine perfume. You're destroying us over Tuesday nights, he hissed at Lisa during mediation. She didn't flinch. You destroyed us when you chose to build a future with her while I was still your wife. The judge awarded Lisa 65% of remaining assets. Mark's hidden income came back to haunt him. But money didn't fix the hollow look in her eyes when we met at Harold's Chicken Shack weeks later. I keep checking my phone at 6:59 p.m., she admitted, picking at fries. Waiting for his running late text. I slid my card across the table. My pottery class has a grief support group. Not spying. Just, Clay. She almost smiled. Maybe next Tuesday. 3 weeks later, Lisa walked into my pottery studio, not as a client, but clutching a mug she'd made. It's lopsided, she said, setting it on my desk. Like my judgment was. The support group had become her anchor. She'd started a non-profit helping women rebuild finances after betrayal. Mark and Sarah's condo purchase fell through when his hidden debt surfaced. Karma's quiet, I thought. But Lisa surprised me. I don't want him ruined, she said. Just, accountable. One Tuesday, our first pottery session together, I confessed my scheme. I've been manipulating trust to expose lies, I admitted, wedging Clay. She studied my hands. Maybe we both learned the same lesson, shortcuts in relationships create cracks that never fully mend. Her mug wasn't perfect, but it held warmth. Mine still did too. Next class, she said, teach me how to center the wheel. I nodded. Truth, like clay, only holds shape when built slowly. The wheel hummed under Lisa's hands as she centered a new lump of clay. I ran into Sarah last week, she said, fingers steady despite the tremor in her voice. At the farmer's market. She looked exhausted. I kept my eyes on my own piece, a bowl collapsing inward. Mark's new startup failed. 6 weeks in. Lisa didn't smile. She asked how I was doing. I told her about the nonprofit. She cried in the organic kale section. Rain tapped the studio windows. Funny how betrayal connects us, she murmured. We both loved a man who only showed us half-truths. I finally looked up. You're stronger than he ever was. She pressed a thumb into the clay's center, creating space. No. I just stopped building my life around his lies. That Tuesday, she taught me her technique for smoothing rough edges. Not fixing them. Just making them livable. As dusk fell over Lake Michigan, I canceled my next pottery class client. Some truths shouldn't be stolen. They should be earned, will by patient wheel. 2 months later, Lisa's nonprofit secured funding from a Chicago women's coalition. Mark moved back to his parents' basement in Naperville after Sarah left him. I found myself testifying in family court about hidden assets, my surveillance photos now evidence of financial fraud, not just betrayal. Judge Peterson, a no-nonsense woman who divorced twice herself, saw through Mark's excuses. You weaponized her trust, she ruled, awarding Lisa full ownership of their Lincoln Park condo. One rainy Thursday, I closed my PI office early and drove to the community center. Lisa was teaching a pottery workshop for survivors. Her hands guided a teenager's trembling fingers on the wheel. "Clay remembers every pressure," she told the girl. "But it also holds whatever shape you choose next." I signed up for the next session, not as bait, but as a student. Truth doesn't need traps. Sometimes, it just needs steady hands and time. My last surveillance photo sits in my desk drawer, not of Mark or Lisa, but of my own hands covered in clay during that final workshop. Lisa never asked for more dirt on Mark. "Some holes," she said, "you fill with something better instead of digging deeper." I shuttered my PI practice last month. Now I teach pottery full-time at the community center, using my old surveillance skills to notice when a student's hands shake too much or their shoulders carry invisible weight. Last Tuesday, a woman named Diane sat at my wheel, spinning stories about her husband's business trips. I didn't offer to follow him. I handed her a lump of clay. "Center this first," I said. "The rest will follow." Outside, Chicago's skyline glittered, no hidden cameras, just real light on real faces learning to rebuild. Truth doesn't need schemes. Sometimes it just needs a quiet room, spinning earth, and the courage to start again. The end.